Right now, we're joined by Buffalo Common Council President Darius Pridgen. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Not only are you an elected leader, but you have a church that for decades, right in the heart of that community, you have led. What is your reaction to what you saw and what you heard today?
It's bittersweet. It's almost like we're reliving that day a little bit again. And it was bitter because I think we heard the most fake apology that I've ever heard in my life. It was sweet in that the judge addressed every family member and went all the way back, a sitting judge who her job was just to sentence. Right. But she talked about racism, and she wasn't afraid to talk about racism, to talk about the history. And to me, it was one of, first of all, I've never cried at any sentencing in my life. And I cried the entire time of watching this. And I kept fighting back to tears like so many other people. So today, I'm really glad he's sentenced. I'm really glad the judge said what the judge said. I'm really glad that those families said what they said. And I know a lot of people might not understand the emotion of the gentleman who went after him, but there's a lot of people in their heart who was saying, just let him get a little further. Just let him, because he was offered protection. And we know that that's the way of the court. But a lot of people, I think, sat back and wished just a little further.
So let's talk about the sentencing. What does the sentencing mean to the city of Buffalo and also for that community, the East Side community? What does it mean?
You know, the sentencing was important, and I was just talking to Paul in the hall about how quick we saw justice happen. And I know that's a part of his strategy of team, from what I'm being told from the lawyers. But at the end of the day, I think that hearing those families, hearing even his lawyer, hearing everybody, nobody in that courtroom except him tried to make an excuse. Nobody in that courtroom said, this is okay. And to be alive at a time when, I was born in the 60s, and to be now here and hear judges say racism is real. The one thing this white supremacist, who I can say his name now, this is the first time publicly I will say Ginger. I have never said it. And I'm saying it because the families gave us permission. Many of the families said, say his name, that the evil attached to his actions will go with his name forever. But what it says is that we are a whole different people now who can talk about racism without being called the race card. It's no longer the race card. It's the fact. Who can talk about segregation, who can talk about slavery and Jim Crow laws, and we can talk about it from the court now to the church, to the street, to the barbershop. That's what he gave us.
We talk about today being one chapter in a long journey that these families have to make. There's been talk about a possible memorial in the community. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that that's something inevitable?
That's on the way. That's on the way. The governor came in a few months ago, announced that memorial, announced that Pastor Mark Blue, NAACP, will head up that team. And these families, the memorial's good, and I'm all for it. However, it has to go beyond memorial. It has to go to systemic change that starts in Buffalo, as we saw it start in the South when we really needed big changes across the United States. The 10 that lost their lives here, it's bigger than even Buffalo. This now goes across the country of people now being able to talk about white supremacy, of people saying to their white supremacist friends that might not be on TV, you're wrong. Right. This is wrong. And if people don't do that, if we don't start there, you can send money, you can do all that kind of stuff. But at the end, if you don't open your mouth, when you come into contact, whether it's on the job, whether it's at church, whether it's in your neighborhood, you gotta stop it right there. And what he gave us was that license to stop it, regardless of the color of your skin.
Pastor, what do you hope to see for the community itself? I mean, it's going to be, in a few months, it'll be 1 year since that horrible day. What do you hope to see happen for that community specifically?
Continue to rebuild that community, to rebuild our community. I live in that community. I live a few blocks away from Tops. I was home when it happened. At the end of the day, one thing I hope, just several things, but the community to change, not only at our brick and mortar and our situations, but also in a way that does not displace the people who have been there. And now, because sometimes you could pour millions of dollars into a community, and then the people who are there cannot afford to live there, cannot afford to shop there. There has to be a very big, comprehensive plan. I keep saying this, throwing money at a problem is not going to solve the problem if we do not correct all of the systemic problems, from education all the way up to employment to ownership. If we don't do that, we're going to come back here in 2 years and it'll be the same community the same way.
And parenting as well, right?
Everything. Nothing should be off the table. We have a crisis in our communities. And in the past, when we said it, it's like, oh, it's just African Americans complaining. It's just lazy people. No, he knew to target that community because he knew it was poor people. And he knew that people would then be killed, lose their families, and he was hoping you and I wouldn't even be talking right now, that we would hate each other so much. But what has occurred is the exact opposite. People of color and people who look like you called today to say, how are you doing? And I was glad to be able to be honest and say, not that great, not yet.
Buffalo Common Council President Darius Pridgen, you have been a great leader in our community, and we know you'll continue to do that. Absolutely. After your term is over.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.